By Tuesday morning, my hands were shaking too hard to button my own cardigan. I had been telling myself for 6 weeks that it was stress. I had been telling myself it was the new dosage. I had been telling myself that the metallic taste in my mouth and the way the kitchen tilted when I stood up too fast and the headaches that lived behind my left eye like a second tenant were all just the side effects of the antidepressant my doctor had switched me to in early September. I had been telling myself a lot of things by Tuesday morning. I parked in the small lot behind the pharmacy on Main Street at 9:15. I walked in. The bell above the door rang. I went to the counter. I gave the pharmacist my name. She looked at the screen. She looked at me. She looked at the screen again. She typed something. She walked away from the counter without saying anything and disappeared into the back. She came out 2 minutes later, very calmly, and she said, "Mrs. Adler, I am not going to be able to fill this prescription today. Could you come around to the consultation window for a moment? It will only take a minute." Her name tag said Imogen Bray, Pharm D. She was maybe 36, light brown hair pulled back, the kind of face that did not give anything away. I followed her around to the consultation window at the side of the counter, the one with the privacy screen, and I sat down in the chair, and she sat down across from me, and she did not say what I expected her to say. She did not tell me there was an insurance issue. She did not tell me my doctor needed to call. She leaned forward, very slightly, and she said, in a voice low enough that nobody else in the pharmacy could hear, "Mrs. Adler, the dosage on this prescription would kill a horse. I am not exaggerating. The amount of this medication you have been taking, at the strength your husband has been picking it up at for the last 7 weeks, is a fatal overdose. You should already be dead. The fact that you are not means that whatever has been in your pill bottle is not what is on the label. I need you to listen to me very carefully and not react. Are you alone in here today? Stop here for 1 second. I know what this sounds like. I know how the next part of this video is going to play out in your head before I tell it. I want you to hit subscribe and put your city in the comments before I keep going, because what I am about to tell you happens in more houses than anyone wants to admit. And the only way I know how to make this story matter is to put it in front of as many people as possible. I am not going to lecture you. I am not going to ask you to look hard at anyone you love. I am just going to tell you what happened to me, and the part at the end I had to live with afterward, which is the part I think about more than any other. Stay until then. My name is Ren Adler. I am 38 years old. I teach elementary school music in a small town in Vermont, where I grew up, where I went to school, where I came back to after college because I missed the way the maples turned in October. I have been at the same school for 11 years. I teach kindergarten through 5th grade. I run the holiday concert. I run the spring musical. I have a small apartment in the back of the school where I store costumes and a piano nobody else uses, and the rolling cart with the xylophones that the 2nd graders are not allowed to touch unless I am in the room. My students call me Miss Wren. I have been called Miss Wren by so many children for so many years that I sometimes answer to it at the grocery store when their mothers say it to me as a joke, and I never know whether to laugh. I had been married for 9 years. My husband's name was Tobias. He worked as a regional sales manager for a company that distributed industrial cleaning supplies to schools and hospitals across northern New England. He traveled 3 nights a week. He came home Thursdays. He was 42. He was tall and quiet and considered, by everyone who knew him, to be one of the gentlest men in our small town. He coached a youth ice hockey team in the winter. He volunteered at the food bank on Saturdays. He had brought my mother flowers every Mother's Day for 9 years. My mother had cried at our wedding because she said she had spent her whole life worrying about who I would end up with, and she could finally stop. Tobias had been picking up my prescriptions for me since June. I had not asked him to. He had offered. He had said it was on his way home from work. He had said I had enough on my plate at the end of the school year. I had thanked him. I had not thought about it again. I sat in the consultation chair across from Imogen Bray on that Tuesday morning in late October, and I tried to make my mouth work. I said, "I do not understand. I take what is in the bottle. The bottle says the right name. The pills look like the same pills." Imogen pulled up something on her screen and turned the monitor so I could see it. It was a series of photographs of tablets. She pointed at one. "That is what your prescription should look like. Round, white, scored down the middle, 25 milligrams." She pointed at the next one. "This is what was in your bottle yesterday." She had taken my pill bottle. She had it in front of her on the desk, in a small plastic bag. The pills inside it were round and white and scored down the middle. They looked to me completely identical to the picture of the correct pill. "They look the same," I said. "They are not the same. The one in your bottle is the same medication, in 200 milligram strength, 8 times what you should be taking. There are 72 of them in this bottle. You have been picking up a 30-day supply of the correct dose every 2 weeks, and someone has been replacing the contents of the bottle with the higher dose. The pills are visually almost identical. The only difference is a tiny imprint on one side. It is a 4-digit code. You would not notice it unless you were looking for it. Most patients never look at their pills closely. We rely on the bottle." I stared at the bag. "How do you know this?" "Because we caught it this morning. Your refill this month came up flagged in our system because the prescribing doctor changed something in your file last Friday. He requested a hold on this medication and a switch to a different one. We were not supposed to fill what is in this bag. The fact that there was a previous fill in our system at the correct dosage that did not match what is on your bottle now told us that someone has been switching the contents of the bottle after it leaves the pharmacy. The pills in your bottle have an imprint that traces back to a different batch from a different distributor than the one we use. We do not stock that variant. Whoever has been replacing your pills has been getting them from somewhere else." "How long?" I said. "I do not know how long. We can only see 2 months of records on our end. We will need to pull longer history. But based on the symptoms you described to your doctor at your last appointment, the symptoms he made notes about, the symptoms that made him decide to change your prescription on Friday, my best estimate is that this has been going on for at least 6 weeks, probably longer." "Mrs. Adler, are you all right? You are very pale." I was not all right. I was sitting very still because if I moved, I thought I would fall out of the chair. The room was tilting. The fluorescent lights were too bright. Imogen put a hand on the desk between us, close to my hand, but not touching it. "I need you to stay calm. I know that is an absurd thing to ask. I am asking it anyway. There are some things we need to do in the next 30 minutes. I have already called your doctor. He is on his way over from the clinic. I have already called the sheriff's department. They are sending a deputy who is trained for this kind of thing. The deputy will be here in about 10 minutes. I have a pill I would like to give you, a mild one, a real one, that will help your hands stop shaking before any of those people get here. Will you take it?" I nodded. She took a small, unopened blister pack out of her drawer and snapped one out and handed it to me with a paper cup of water. I took it. I drank the water. My hands were shaking so hard I spilled some of the water on my own knee. Imogen pretended not to notice. She sat with me for a moment. Then she said, "Mrs. Adler, I have to ask you something, and I have to ask it now, before the deputy gets here. Is there anyone in your household, or anyone who has access to your home, who would have a reason to want you to be sick, or worse?" I did not answer for a long time. I sat there and I thought about Tobias. I thought about the morning, 6 weeks earlier, when I had stood in our kitchen and told him I had been feeling foggy, and he had kissed my forehead and said it was probably just the new prescription adjusting. I thought about the night 3 weeks earlier when I had fallen on the stairs and broken my left wrist, and he had driven me to the emergency room and held my hand the whole way and told the nurse, in a very calm voice, that he was worried I was getting worse. I thought about the life insurance policy he had taken out on me in the spring. The one he had told me was just a routine update because we had refinanced the house. The one I had signed without reading because he had explained it. I thought about the way he had been picking up my prescriptions since June. I thought about the fact that I had not had to ask. The first thing I said out loud was, "Oh." Just that one word. Imogen waited. The second thing I said was, "I think I need to talk to the deputy." She nodded. She got up. She left me in the chair. The deputy arrived 10 minutes later. Her name was Hadley Vossen. She was maybe 40. She had a quiet, steady way about her that made my hands stop shaking on their own. She sat in the chair Imogen had left, and she introduced herself, and she did not ask me to start at the beginning. She asked me 3 specific questions, in order, and the order of the questions told me she had done this before. The questions were these. Question 1, did I feel safe going home? Question 2, did I have somewhere else I could go tonight, that my husband did not know about, that he could not show up to? Question 3, was there anything in the house that I needed in the next 24 hours that could not wait? I answered, no, yes, no. She nodded. She said, "Okay, Mrs. Adler, here is what we are going to do. We are going to get you somewhere safe before he gets home tonight. We are going to do that without him knowing anything has changed. You are going to call him on your way home from school today, the way you would on a normal Tuesday, and you are going to be Wren, and he is not going to hear anything different in your voice. Do you think you can do that for me?" I said I did not know. She said, "I am going to help you. You will not be doing it alone. We are going to practice it before you make the call. We are going to put a few things in place first. Can you stay here with me for the next 2 hours and let me get you set up?" I stayed. I want to skip ahead because I do not want to dwell on the part where I sat in the back room of the pharmacy with a deputy and a doctor and a victim advocate from the county for 2 hours while we made a plan. I do not want to dwell on it because the planning itself was the easiest part of the whole thing. Hadley Vossen and the people she worked with had a system. They had clearly run it before. They had a safe house arranged within 40 minutes. They had a forensic accountant looking at our joint bank accounts within 2 hours. They had a search warrant written and ready to be filed by lunch. They had been waiting, in some sense, for somebody like me to walk through a pharmacy door for years, and they had everything ready. The hard part was not the planning. The hard part was the call. I made the call to Tobias from the parking lot of the pharmacy at 1:15 in the afternoon. I told him I was going to stay late at the school to work on the holiday concert program. I told him I would pick up dinner on the way home. I told him I loved him. He said, "I love you too, sweetheart. Don't work too hard." He sounded normal. He sounded like he had sounded for 9 years. I want to tell you that something in his voice was off. I want to say I caught a tremor or a hesitation or anything that would make sense of what was happening. There was nothing. He sounded like the man I had married. That, I think, is the thing I have not been able to put down. The fact that the voice on the other end of that call was the voice I had loved for 9 years, and that the man on the other end of that call had been crushing 200 milligram tablets into my pill bottle for at least 6 weeks, and that those two facts had been, all along, the same person. He was arrested at our house at 4:45 that afternoon, when he came home and found 3 deputies and a county detective waiting in the driveway. He did not resist. He did not seem surprised. He asked if he could put on his coat. The detective said yes. He put on his coat. He walked to the cruiser. He sat down in the back seat. He looked out the window at the maple tree by our front porch. The detective who told me about it later said he had looked, in that moment, like a man who had been waiting a long time to stop pretending. The investigation was extensive. They found the pill bottles in his work truck. They found the receipts. They found the search history on his work laptop. They found the records of 3 other prescriptions he had picked up at 3 different pharmacies in 3 different towns over the last 8 months. Prescriptions that had nothing to do with me, that were filled under the names of dead people whose information he had bought online. They found the life insurance policy. 2 of them, actually. One I had known about. One I had not. They found the spreadsheet on his work laptop where he had calculated the timeline. He had calculated that I would be dead within 4 months of what would appear to be a slow, steady decline, of what his family doctor would record as a complicated reaction to a new antidepressant. He had calculated that the autopsy would not flag anything. He had been wrong about that. He had been wrong about other things, too. He had been wrong about Imogen Bray. He had been wrong, especially, about what would happen if a pharmacist with 8 years of experience decided to look twice at a refill that did not match the system. He pleaded guilty. He took a plea deal that gave him 26 years. He did not look at me in the courtroom. I do not know if I wanted him to. The hard part has not been the part of the story I have been telling you. The hard part started afterward. The hard part is the part I have to be honest about now, because if I do not say it, I am pretending I walked out of this hole, and I did not. Here is what nobody warned me about. When somebody you have loved tries to kill you very slowly, over a long period of time, with kindness, with kissed foreheads, with rides to the emergency room, with held hands, the thing they take from you is not just your safety. It is your ability to trust the part of yourself that loved them. I had loved Tobias. I had loved him with the part of me that knew how to love. That part of me had not been wrong about what I was feeling. I had felt loved. I had been loved, in some way I cannot fully describe even now, by the person who was killing me. Both of those things were true at the same time. The hard part is that I cannot, even today, 4 years later, draw a clean line between the two. I cannot tell you when the love stopped being love and started being something else. I cannot tell you whether it was ever actually love at all, or whether I had been mistaken from the very beginning, or whether it had been love for the first 6 years and something else for the last 3. I do not know. I will never know. The man who could have told me will not, and I would not believe him if he tried. What I have had to learn, slowly, with help, is that the inability to draw that line is not a failure on my part. It is the actual nature of what happened to me. People who do this thing to other people do it inside something that looks like love, because love is the only thing they have access to that gets them close enough to do the harm. The fact that I cannot tell the love from the harm in retrospect is not because I am foolish. It is because they were the same surface, made by the same hands, in the same kitchen, on the same Tuesday mornings, for 9 years. There is no microscope sharp enough to separate them now. I have stopped trying. I went back to teaching the following September. I still run the holiday concert. I still run the spring musical. The xylophones are still on the rolling cart. The kids still call me Miss Wren. I bought a small house on the other side of town, on a quiet road, with a back porch that gets the afternoon sun. I have a roommate now, an old college friend who moved up from Boston after the divorce of her own. We share groceries. We watch movies. I have a therapist I see every other Wednesday. She is very good at her job. She has helped me understand that healing from this is not linear, and that some weeks are worse than others, and that the goal is not to forget what happened, but to make a life that is large enough to hold it without being consumed by it. I have, mostly, made that life. Imogen Bray and I have lunch every other month. She does not work at the same pharmacy anymore. She got a position at a regional hospital where she trains other pharmacists in recognition of medication tampering and domestic poisoning. She has trained over 400 pharmacists in the last 3 years. She has flagged 31 cases. 26 of those cases were confirmed. 23 of those cases involved a domestic partner. 3 of those cases involved an adult child. The numbers are higher than anybody talks about, in part because the people who survive do not want to talk about it, and the people who do not survive cannot, and the doctors writing the death certificates very rarely look. Imogen has looked. Imogen will keep looking. I will be fine. Imogen will be fine. The number of women who will not be fine, who are right now picking up prescriptions that were filled by their husbands, who are right now feeling foggy in their own kitchens and being told by the men they love that it is probably just the new prescription, is a number I cannot stop thinking about. I am asking you, gently, not to look at the people in your life with suspicion. That is not what this story is about. I am asking you something smaller. The next time you take a pill, look at the pill. Look at the imprint on it. Compare it to the picture on the bottle. It takes 10 seconds. Do it once a week. That is all. If you ever notice something different, even something small, even something you cannot explain, take the bottle to your pharmacist and ask. Most pharmacists will be glad to look. The good ones, the ones like Imogen, are waiting to be asked. They have been trained for this. They have been quietly building a system to catch what nobody else looks at. They are on your side. They are on the side of every woman feeling foggy in her own kitchen who has not yet figured out why. Use them. They are there. That is the only thing I am going to ask of you tonight. Look at the pill. Look at the imprint. Take the 10 seconds. The cost of those 10 seconds is nothing. The cost of not taking them is, sometimes, everything.